What's up, friends? Derrick Broze here, back for a walk and talk. It's been a few months since I've done a walk and talk. I'm back in Mexico, in Morelia. You can kind of see the mountains up around the city. It's rainy season, hence the big clouds, and I'm in between rainstorms, so I figured I'd do it on a walk and talk. Got a few things I want to share about today, and yeah. First off, for those who are watching this on YouTube, on my old YouTube channel, for those who don't know, my old YouTube channel, which was my biggest reach over the years, finally randomly got turned on about a month ago after being banned in October 2020. So, to those of you on YouTube, I started doing walk and talks, and I don't do them that often, as I just mentioned a moment ago, but I'm going to try to start doing them again, at least on a weekly basis, because they're sort of fun for me because they're more casual. I got a couple of notes here of things I want to mention, but this isn't like a news report, and this isn't an interview or a podcast. It's just me out for a walk, enjoying the weather in Mexico or wherever I'm at, and sharing my thoughts. So yeah, stay tuned for more of these if you enjoy them. I probably will be doing more. So it's August now, 2024. We are less than 60 days. I think I counted the other day. It's like 6 weeks, 7 weeks till the Summit of the Future, which, if you've been following my reporting, my articles, my interviews recently, I've been talking about the Summit of the Future, which is a meeting taking place in New York City, September 22nd to 23rd, as part of the United Nations Annual General Assembly Week. And this year, though, it's going to include what they're calling the Summit of the Future, where all the member states are expected to sign the Pact for the Future. And that Pact for the Future, more than likely, is going to include an emergency platform, which will give the UN, which they're starting to call UN 2.0. They're saying it's time for us to upgrade the capabilities of the United Nations and give it more power. There's different people calling on this, including UN members. And so part of the emergency platform would be to, in the case of an emergency, grant the UN some new special powers or abilities to respond to what the World Economic Forum and others call the poly crisis, or the planetary crisis. Namely, they talk about, some of them are real problems, like deforestation. They talk about, of course, climate change, war, economic crisis. Like, literally, as I've been reporting, the emergency platform, one of the reasons it's so dangerous, like with a lot of political things and technocratic things, the language is really vague, so you could see it being used in any number of ways. Oh, the sun's coming out. It's getting nice and bright here again. That's what I love about here, is like the rain comes and you could even see, you hear that? That was thunder. You can still see there's like big rain clouds up ahead, and it's gonna rain again, but I love it because it's not a constant rain. It's just a nice, crazy rainstorm, and then it goes away and the sun comes out and it's beautiful. But anyways, this emergency platform, if it passes in its current form, which they just released another version a couple of weeks ago in July, and the latest version we'll probably see very soon, and if it includes the language about the emergency platform and it goes through the way we're thinking, this would mean that if they claim, the UN claims, or some body of the UN claims, that there is a emergency that, according to their words, shocks multiple regions of the world, then they can initiate this emergency platform, which they promise wouldn't be a standing body or institution, but who knows. And then this emergency platform would give the UN even more powers and to act. And it could go from just being a global body that is kind of an international body that is kind of, ignored by some people, praised by others, to actually being a global governance, world government in general. They like to use the term multilateralism and global governance. You have to learn how to read the globalists speak, the gobbledygook technocrats speak, because they don't always just come out and say what they're really planning. But essentially, it's a major step towards the one world government that so many people have been warning about for so long. Look, you can kind of see the mountains back there. Let me see. Let's go on past me. You can kind of see it way up back there. And you know, when I was first waking up, I used to think that this talk of the UN, like I was waking up to things like fluoride and some of the things that Alex Jones and others would talk about, James Corbett, I found him early on, but I wasn't kind of really quite sold right away on this idea that the UN was trying to create a world government, you know, and because when you start researching, you learn about things like the John Birch Society, and people try to say like, these are just right-wing tropes that were debunked in the 50s, you know, those John Birchers, they're just old conspiracy theorists. And so I was kind of skeptical or hesitant to fully embrace the fact and make it part of my work to call out the corruption in the UN. And oh, look, this is a better view, much better view. There you go. The corruption in the UN, and just recognizing that there really is an effort to make a one world government. And I wish that was true, that it was just a bunch of right-wing crazy John Birchers, whatever you want to say, but that's not reality. They are truly trying to control humanity. And some of these people, including the Club of Rome and many of these psychopaths, really are, it's Mexico, so there's going to be a lot of dogs. They really are trying to reduce the population. They really are eugenicists. And, you know, so it's important to pay attention to this, and not really anybody other than me and Jakob Northengard, who I recently released an interview with. He's a researcher from Sweden, and maybe a couple other channels or content creators are talking about the Summit of the Future and the Pact for the Future and the emergency platform and the fact that the UN might declare an planetary emergency. So I'm trying to raise alarm bells about it, but not just because it's important that we're aware of this. In fact, I sent out an email the other day saying, I need your help to share all my articles and interviews I've been writing over the last year trying to raise awareness, because right now, raising awareness is pretty much all we can do. We can't physically stop the United Nations from meeting in New York City next month. People could organize counter-protest in New York City, and I might go there and try to do something. But at the same time, you know, the problem with movements like that is, and I get this, the average person can't just like fly across the country to protest for a couple of hours and then go home. You know, they're just trying to work, and I get that. But maybe people in New York City, or maybe even, I said this on a recent video, you can just pass out some flyers and promote information locally whenever the Summit of the Future is happening, and just try to raise awareness. And that's important. But besides just raising awareness, what else can we do? Well, we can try to counter them, try to live an alternative way to the vision that they propose. They say that you're going to own nothing and be happy. Well, how about trying to buy land with a group of people or with your family, or you know, working a community garden, an urban farm, just finding ways to putting, you know, your food and your life and your health and your education and so many other things back into your hands, and not just blindly trusting or following the technocrats. Instead, put your energy into building alternatives, creating alternatives, living alternatives. This is why the weekend after the UN's Summit of the Future, myself and others, we're going to be hosting the People's Reset, our summit for our future in the United Kingdom. It's happening in person in Bath, UK. The website's thegreaterreset.org or thepeoplesreset.org. And this is going to be the 6th event that I've held under this Greater Reset, People's Reset kind of movement. And I'm not just telling you this because, like, hey, buy tickets to our event, you know, help us make this successful. Although that's part of it. But the reason we do the People's Reset, the reason we're organized in this way, is because we're trying to teach people to get off of these systems, to not sit around and wait and be dependent on the technocratic control grid that they're trying to build around us. We're trying to get people to really think about how we're going to create a better world for future generations, how we're going to avoid facial recognition. Did you guys see the announcement that the NFL is now rolling out, for those outside of the United States, the National Football League, American football in the United States, it's rolling out facial recognition cameras for all stadiums across the league starting August 8th. So the football season is about to begin, and all the stadiums are now going to have facial recognition cameras. We also saw announcements of facial recognition programs to roll out in the UK after recent violence out there, as well as similar discussions in Argentina, despite the so-called libertarian hero Milei out there. And these are programs, facial recognition programs, that I've been warning about since at least 2018, 2019. And you may have noticed if you fly in the United States that they're starting to roll them out in the international terminals. And soon it's going to be in all terminals. Like soon, as I wrote about in my book, How to Opt Out of the Technocratic State, you won't be able to fly without submitting to facial recognition. And that's a huge problem. Obviously, that's a violation of our privacy. And as I wrote in my book, and I was reminded of this week because of the football thing, facial recognition thing, I wrote in my book that two of the main ways that the technocratic state, the technocrats, are going to sell surveillance to the people is through convenience and entertainment. So convenience is like, oh, let us just scan your face when you come into the grocery store, and you don't have to talk to a human being, and we'll automatically deduct the funds from your account. So you just walk in, grab what you want, and walk out. It's super convenient, super easy. You don't have to talk to a human. That's one way, things like that. The other way, you can sort of see the mountains way up there, out there. The other way is through entertainment. So things like, again, the football thing. I saw some comments online of people saying, yeah, fuck that, I'm never going to go to that, I'm done going to football games, screw the NFL. But that's just the minority. The vast majority of people, especially diehard football fans who are all bought in, which, by the way, have you guys heard this whole theory on like the idea that the football games are fake or rigged? I've heard a few things, seen some statements from a football player or two, but what do you guys think? Is that true? Is that accurate? Just a sidebar. I'd love to know more about that. But yeah, the people who are following the football games, by and large, are kind of like, I don't want to say, look, I'm nothing against people who watch football. Not trying to get into a whole thing. But yes, there are definitely people who are all into football and who are like, screw my rights, screw my privacy. If I can watch football, that's all that matters. I want to go to those games in person, God damn it. And then there's others who are football fans that aren't brainwashed. So I'm not trying to paint everybody in a broad brush. But anyways, my point is, the reason I'm organizing the People's Reset, the reason I'm writing books, the reason I'm doing talks and presentations, and the reason I use Monero, the reason I don't have a bank, the reason I don't talk to the IRS, the reason I work with local farmers and markets and try to stay as locally integrated as possible, and the reason I'm trying to build local peer-to-peer counter economies here in Mexico where I live is because we need community if we're going to survive and thrive in the face of what's coming, or what's already here, really. We're not going to make it through what's happening, the facial recognition, the social credit scores, the digital identities, central bank digital currencies, stablecoin surveillance. We're not going to make it through that on our own, unfortunately. And maybe not so fortunately, because community is good. So we need each other. We need to work together, whether that's your family, your church, your freedom cell, your community, whatever you have. We need to come together and find a way to work together and to build a better world that we know is possible without enslavement, and one based on individual liberty and privacy and bodily autonomy and stuff like that. And that's what the People's Reset is all about. thepeoplesreset.org. 3 days in the UK, all focused on solutions. It will be streamed for free online. Streamed for free online, like all of our events are, because we're trying to get as many solutions out to the people as possible. So you can come in person for 3 days of solutions, concert with dub effects. I'm gonna put the trailer at the end of the video. You can watch it, learn all about it. Or you can watch it from home, and you can still get solutions. And we've done this with every single one of our Greater Reset, People's Reset activations. And the idea being that maybe some of you at home, even if just a small percentage, start focusing on getting off big tech, growing your own food, working on your trauma, healing yourself, mentally, physically, spiritually, getting land, building community. Maybe if even just a small percentage of people do that, we might actually make it through and build an alternative parallel society that can thrive outside the hands of the technocratic state, because I don't think we can necessarily stop what they're building. So that's what the People's Reset's all about, and solutions. I mean, that's what I like to focus on. And part of that solution is, one of the reasons I'm back here in Mexico, besides this is where I live for a good chunk of the year, is my land is outside of the city. This is Morelia. I'm kind of up in the mountains outside of the downtown area. But this city, our land is about 2 hours outside of the city and the mountains. And theconsciousagora.com for those who want to learn more, because we are looking for new members, as you may have heard me announce recently. And, the reason I talk about that, because it's not journalism related, is because that is part of the solution. It is to grow our own food and to get land and to live amongst like-minded people who actually have similar values and interests and things like that. Like, that's why that's important to me. It's not just that, like, I'm living on the land for my own benefit per se, although it is a great benefit. It is that I believe that if more of us spent time doing that, spent more time doing that and getting on the land, we could have more liberty. We could have more autonomy. We could have more people growing their own food and have these decentralized networks of food growers and, homeschooling and unschooling and nature schooling and people using alternative, decentralized, open source technology that allows for privacy, and our own alternative food delivery systems and food production systems and education systems and healthcare systems. Yes, it's a big vision, but I don't think anything short of this is going to work. I think we have to focus on building these alternatives. So that's what the People's Reset's all about. That's why I have land. So I'm out here working on my land. We are looking for new members. If anybody out there has financial resources and skills and is looking to move on sooner rather than later, go to theconsciousagora.com and send in a request at the bottom of the website, and we'll send you the welcome packet and details about our principles and our values, and you can learn more about what we're doing. So that's why I'm out here too. Every weekend we're going to the land and we're building a compost toilet. We're fixing our fences. There's already banana trees and avocado trees and pomegranates and limes and peaches and apples and some other things. And this is a really cool area. Just like a nice big tree, a garden kind of thing. And there's already so much potential on the land, and we're just trying to be back here now in Mexico working on that, because in addition to trying to raise awareness about the Summit of the Future and to hosting the People's Reset, I'm not just trying to talk about it. I'm trying to be about it. I'm trying to live it, be an example for my nieces and nephews and my family, and for any of you who may be looking for inspiration, to show you that yes, journalism is important, activism is important, we have to raise awareness about issues, but part of that needs to be focusing on the solutions. And as I mentioned, to me, the solutions are not going to be found in the political arena, but they're going to be found by opting out of these systems. So that's where my energy is going into. I'm back here working on the land, raising awareness about the Summit of the Future next month, headed to the UK next month as well for the People's Reset, our summit for our future in the UK. And yeah, that's kind of what I've been working on, my friends. And actually, as of tonight, as I'm recording this, in like an hour and a half, 2 hours, I'm going to be recording a conversation with James Corbett, Dan Dix of Press for Truth, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media, and who else? Ryan Christian of Last American Vagabond, and Aaron and Melissa of Truth Stream Media. We were supposed to have Whitney Webb join us, but Whitney is not going to be able to make it, unfortunately, tonight. But Aaron and Melissa of Truth Stream Media, Dan Dix of Press for Truth, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media, Ryan Christian of Last American Vagabond, James Corbett, myself of The Conscious Resistance. Like, between each of us, I think we've got 70 years of independent media work, independent journalism, and we're going to be bringing our thoughts and our perspectives together to try to counter some of this garbage that I've been seeing out there. It's not just mainstream Republicans and people who are buying into Donald Trump. It's a lot of people who consider themselves awake and, conspiracy realists, truthers, freedom fighters, etc., free thinkers, who, for one reason or another, have fallen for the Trump deception and are really buying into Trump and thinking he's going to be a hero and going to lead us to a better world, when, as I've been saying, it's not going to happen in politics. All these people are controlled, and I'm not just saying this, talking out my ass. I've done the research, done the reporting, been debunking all the lies about Trump since his first administration. And so this talk isn't just going to be an anti-Trump thing. I really don't know what it's going to turn into, but the main goal is basically to say, you know what, we have some experience and some you know, perspective here, and we're all going to share it in the hopes that we can wake up anybody else in the next couple months who is thinking of supporting Donald Trump, but not just Donald Trump, really what he represents, buying into this faux freedom movement, this co-opted fake MAGA bullshit that is not about liberty and really is just another form of statism. And ultimately, even though there are positive people with good intentions following Trump, they're being led astray, and we're trying to do what we can to crack through some of that. So we're going to be recording that. That is going to be coming out tomorrow. I think this is where I'm going to end this walk and talk. I just walked around my neighborhood a little bit. I'm going to go in, I'm going to get this video uploaded, record that conversation with the whole crew, post it tomorrow, and start another week of journalism and raising awareness and trying to get more people to pay attention to the things going on in the world, and most importantly, thinking as local as possible, your own community, your own neighborhoods, your own mind, your own heart, so that we can heal our trauma and we can actually stop revolving, you know, that revolution word, it's all about going in circles, and we can actually evolve and step out of this cycle, what the Buddhists call samsara, and we can actually step into new terrain where we build the world that we know is possible, we live the lives that we know are possible, we set up an example that choosing evil, voting for the lesser two evils, is not a principled thing, and it's not what we want to teach the coming generations. And instead, we're going to choose to be principled people and to focus our energy on what we can improve and how we can leave a legacy for the coming generations without subsuming ourselves and committing ourselves to supporting evil and falling for false political fake heroes, what I call the Great Inversion. If you don't know what that is, go to my website, search the Great Inversion. And that's my goal, guys. Have a good evening. Peace.
This is a solutions event. This is what's happening.
After 5 successful events in North America, the Freedom Cell Network is partnering with Free Humanity to bring the People's Reset to Bath, UK. In 2020, as the World Economic Forum announced the Great Reset Initiative, millions of people around the world began questioning the narratives being fed to them.
You must stay at home.
Millions of free-thinking people responded with protests, marches and rallies focused on waking up the rest of the world to the dark agenda of control and technocracy hidden beneath the so-called health initiatives.
We need to know every single piece of information.
We've lived that freedom message today, and we've been a walking symbol of what it means to be free.
While the world was reacting to the rapid expansion of tyranny, the Freedom Cell Network sought to promote solutions by launching the Greater Reset Activation in January 2021, a 5-day gathering designed to inspire, motivate, and activate freedom lovers into action. The Greater Reset highlighted the importance of localization, decentralization, individual and collective liberty, bodily autonomy, and freedom of choice.
The technocrats at the United Nations and the World Economic Forum are now hosting the Summit of the Future in New York City in September 2024.
At that meeting, governments of the world are expected to sign the so-called Pact for the Future. We reject their vision and the assumption that they speak for humanity. Join us in September for the People's Reset UK, our summit for our future.
Over 3 days, we will gather in community, celebrating our victories and successes, whilst continuing to highlight solutions under 5 holistic themes.
Liberate your mind, body, and spirit.
Permaculture and food independence.
Building parallel networks.
Empowering technology.
And building free and conscious communities. 24 top-notch speakers, including Neil Oliver, Charles Dowding, Dan Aston Gregory, Nigel Howlett, John and Rebecca Bush, and many more.
We'll also be hosting the People's Reset concert featuring international artist Dub FX, as well as Presence, 33, and more talented performers to come. Join us in Bath in September 2024 as we collaborate and build the parallel systems of the future.
Join us for the next evolution of the Greater Reset.
Join us for the People's Reset UK. Visit thegreaterreset.org to learn more and to get your ticket today.